This is part 2 of the 2024 ARC PLC sign-up recommendations for Wisconsin farmers. This is going to describe SCO and ECO. Supplemental coverage option, SCO, allows you to insure part of your revenue protection or yield protection deductible with a county policy, the area revenue protection or area yield protection. What you're doing is layering individual coverage and county coverage on top of each other. You still can't exceed the 86% of total coverage with SCO. What you're doing is you're adding SCO on top of your revenue protection coverage to increase your coverage up to this 86%. SCO will not make any payments until the county loss exceeds 14%. It's the 86% level coverage. But it is subsidized about the same level as your traditional revenue protection policy. The farmer pays 35% and the 65% part of the premium is subsidized by the federal government. SCO is available, but you can only buy SCO for a crop if you have chosen PLC as your farm program for that crop. And so if you're going to be choosing SCO for a crop, you also have to choose PLC. If you're going to choose ARC, you cannot buy SCO. Now, here's a little graphic to kind of explain SCO and how it is layering it, the individual coverage with the county level coverage. The box on the right is the farm level policy, the revenue protection. The vertical axis is the amount of revenue. And so the first dark part is your traditional, say, 75% coverage. That's your coverage, which you're buying with your revenue protection policy. That next dashed area is the deductible. The first 25% of losses, say if you bought 75%, the first 25% of losses below your expected revenue, that is your deductible. You cover those yourself. What SCO allows you to do is to buy part of that deductible with coverage to make payments. So if you have a shallow loss, you potentially get an SCO payment. However, it is not based off your individual yield. It's based off of the county yield. And that's why it's shifted over to the next column on the left there. SCO coverage goes up to 86% of your expected revenue, but with a county policy. There's 4 possible outcomes with revenue protection added, with SCO added on top of revenue protection. SCO could pay, but not revenue protection. For example, you can have a low county yield, and have a good farm yield. So there's triggered a payment at the county level from the SCO, but you still have good yields. You could also have revenue protection pay, but not SCO. You could have a good county yield, no SCO payments triggered, but you have a low farm yield and trigger a payment. You can have both pay, or you can have neither of them pay. So both of them would pay if you have low prices and low county yields. That would trigger an SCO payment. And you might have a low yield at the farm as well with these low prices, and you generate a revenue protection premium payment as well. The last one is you have high prices, high yields, both yourself and the county, and neither policy pays. So, for example, suppose you have a 75% revenue protection policy on your corn. That means you have the 25% deductible. You've added 86% SCO on top of it, the maximum you could buy. Suppose your county revenue is 80% of its average, and suppose your revenue is 65% of your guarantee. That's outcome 3. Both of them are going to pay. You can receive an SCO indemnity for a 6% loss and a revenue protection indemnity for a 10% loss. Now, there's also enhanced coverage option. This is a policy option that sits on top of SCO. ECO insures part of your revenue protection or yield protection deductible with the county policy again, but it goes from 86% up to 95% of expected revenue. And you can use ECO whether you sign up for ARC or PLC, it doesn't matter. You can add ECO on top of your SCO, or you can use it instead of SCO. So if you did choose ARC, you can still buy ECO, or you can do PLC, buy SCO and ECO. So the other thing to note that ECO is going to be a little more costly because it has a smaller premium subsidy. Farmers pay a lot more of that premium, whereas with the SCO, about 65% of the premium is subsidized, whereas ECO is much smaller. The graphic on the right shows that same layering of coverage. The green part is the farm level. In this case, it's the individual coverage. It's a 75% policy, so you have a 25% deductible. That's those yellow and then the red band. On the right is the SCO coverage. You go from 75 up to 86%. That's the SCO deductible band. That's the part of the deductible from your revenue protection policy that's covered by SCO. Then from 86 up to 95%, that's the part of your revenue protection deductible that's going to be covered by ECO. Then the last 5% is the deductible that's not going to be covered by either policy. But these deductible coverages are not at the individual level, they're at the county level. So there is some difference between what what triggers payments. SCO and ECO are based off of county yield, whereas revenue protection is based off of your individual yield. Then the last thing here is the data on farmer use of SCO and ECO here in Wisconsin. The data, you can see the bar graphs on the right, the data numbers on the left. But for corn and for soybeans, corn has been about 250 or a little bit more acres over the last several years. It's been growing a little bit for ECO, soybeans a little bit less, a little about 100, 125,000 over the last few years. In the end, these end up being about 6% of planted acres in the state for corn and soybeans are covered with ECO and SCO. Wheat notes it's a smaller acre just because they're much smaller crops, but there's been some use of these policies. So again, about 6% of corn and soybean acres use these policies. If you're going to buy SCO, you must enroll in